numbers. That was with my mouth. So,
Oh my goodness.
so I just had to be clear.
Yeah.
But that
was in my mouth too.
Yeah, that was definitely in your mouth.
Great, now I need to come up with one.
Wait,
I feel left out.
Somebody's going to throw up in their mouth. So the deal is that now we have all these refugees who left because they're Christians.
Yeah.
Whatever. But so the deal is that they're seeking the Catholic Church, and they're actually it's a little more, because it's a different rite.
Yeah.
It's a little more conservative, and it's actually drawing more people in. So this is happening in Barcelona, Spain specifically. It's happening in England. It's happening in other countries in Europe. Not so much France. France is not so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think is that plays in the Catholic Church's favor around the world is that, of course, there's many, but anyway. But one thing is that you can go anywhere on the planet, and the Mass is exactly the same structure, that you can understand what's going on no matter what language you're hearing it in, and I think that sense is appealing to people that are looking for something. I think when everything can be so wishy-washy in society, in the world, and because I got in a big debate with an evangelical Christian friend a couple weeks back.
Never.
I know, right? And anyways, she was like, well, challenging me always about, well, why do Catholics say this? Why do you believe that? And and I was just like, this is getting a little tiresome when it's like, who do you believe? At least I have a structure of, there's a defined message that comes from the top down, goes around the world, and usually is not defied or whatever. You know what you're getting, and it speaks to me. But versus so many, not only are there dozens, if not hundreds, of Protestant denominations as far as major ones. There's, it's like in the Protestant world, it's an infinite number of, Pastor Bob can just, decide to open a storefront, and there's, some guy saying, hey, it speaks to me. And then, and a lot of times that's fine and it works, but, it just basically doesn't carry the same weight. And I think people are looking for that a lot of times, and maybe I think that's hopefully going to be able to help draw people back in America as well, those that are looking.
Yeah, and as I was kind of making my way back to the church, I thought of I went to a Catholic high school in the Boston area, and we had a great priest there, Father Ahrens, and he had a homily one time where he said, say if you receive a random gift on your doorstep, the first question you ask yourself is, who is this from? And the second thing you ask yourself is, what's the proper thank you in this case?
Huh.
And if you're one of those people who sees life as being totally random, that's kind of a burden, and I feel sorry for everyone who goes through that. But I realize about myself, I've just been way too blessed to see life as totally random. And so I kept coming back to that in my mind about what is this gift I've been given, and how do I repay it?
So yeah, I had a very different response. If I had a random gift at my door, I'd be like, who gave this to me? And
Call the FBI.
My second question is it a bomb? Yeah, that's what that was like. I mean,
yeah, definitely do the safety precautions.
I was not thinking about the thank you part. That's so weird. I should do that more often. Just go for the thank you instead of worry about whether it's going to blow up in my face or not. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I think we should move into the next thing I want to talk about. It kind of ties in with this, and I think there's basically a new CBS sitcom starting on Monday, the 26th of February, called Living Biblically, and it's going to be on 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern and Pacific, and I don't know what time Mountain, but anyway, so they don't do that anymore in those commercials, Mountain. But
I don't think people in the mountains know what mountain time is.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a show that's based on an excellent book that I've read, and great guy wrote it, acquaintance of mine named AJ Jacobs. He's a former editor of Esquire, and basically what happened was that AJ was culturally Jewish, was very secular about it, and he had a couple kids, and they're starting to ask, well, hearing about that their friends are going to church or temple, and what's God, Dad? And he's trying to think, well, what do I tell them? And so he decided that he'd never been anti-God or anti-religion. He just didn't, wasn't raised with it, didn't speak to it
He
either way.
didn't put the work into it like Michael did.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So anyway, so the thing is, he decided to look into it but take it to an extreme because he was known for humorous experiential writing. So he, for a year, tried to follow every rule of the Bible, for Old Testament and New. And he wound up like growing his beard out crazy, walking the streets of New York in a robe, eating according to all the weird rules in Leviticus and whatnot. But then he said that overall he started to have some things register with him, like about being honest, and the general moral rules started really resonating with him. And now he is a temple attending guy who bar mitzvahed his kids and all this. And so the thing is, the sitcom is they shifted it to Catholic because it's a broader base of people watching and relating to that, with all our iconic, priests in robes and bells and smells and whatnot. And so it's a guy who's facing a midlife crisis, a Catholic writer, and he decides to follow the Bible for 9 months when he learns that his wife is pregnant. And I've seen the show. The first 3 episodes are hysterical. And it's created by and adapted by a guy named Patrick Walsh, who has worked extensively on shows like Two Broke Girls, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and Outsourced. And this is his first big shot at running his own show. And basically was given it by Johnny Galecki, of all people, the guy from Big Bang Theory, bought it for his production company and hired Patrick to make it. And I've got a couple interview clips from another show that I did where Patrick is speaking about the show, and we're going to play a couple snippets of that interview here before leading into our discussion of it. And first off, Patrick is talking about why, was it difficult to get it on network TV, a show that openly embraces Catholicism and the Bible and belief?
It was surprisingly easy for all. We sold it to the 4 major networks, which was shocking to us because we thought it was going to be a much harder sell. But I think what they responded to was just that, my pitch was very much, I am a respectful, curious, interested, fascinated person by religion. And, the way you have to kind of sell a show is tell them that people will watch it. And I said, 84% of the world aligns themselves with some form of religion, and I don't think they're being served every week on television. And then you also have to convince them, of course, that your goal is that you're not going to be a lightning rod for controversy, which is not our goal. But, everyone I know who is religious discusses it with a lot of warmth and humor, and I don't know how it became such a you can't go there kind of topic. We wanted to have fun with it, but also be really just respectful. And I think there's so many more interesting episodes to be mined from a topic like this than another show about people going on dates or whatever it may be. We had such a great time in the writers' room having these discussions, really passionate, interesting discussions, and then even better discussions when we brought in our advisors. We had a priest and a rabbi advise us on the show as well.
And so there was Patrick Walsh speaking about the show, and are you guys surprised that something like this could get out there, or do you think that it just is a matter of somebody maybe just making the effort, or does it sound like something that could gives you some hope about having more of a positive voice for the church or Christians as a whole?
I would say the latter, yeah, because the Bible is it's actually a comically rich ground to structure a show around. Like
jokes it writes themselves.
Yeah, like there's a lot you can work with. So I think
Leviticus.
I think it definitely has potential. And in today's world, along with the separation of church and state, has become an almost distinct drive to separate church and TV. And not as many people have been willing to try it, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done and that the opportunity isn't there. So yeah, I think it's a promising concept.
Yeah, absolutely. What's surprising to me is that from the clip that you played, it seems that there really is an effort not to demean Catholics per se.
Not at all.
And that's what's different, is that they've used the religious, whether it's Catholic or what have you, as a way to draw in an audience, but it's a formulaic little gotcha, where then they end up getting bashed, which is what most of the rest of the secular TV is anyway. I mean, honestly, I watch HGTV. If we ever have an HGTV,
HG
little
or HD? I'm sorry.
HG.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, see, doesn't
She
know
wants
what
this
that's.
HG on HD.
Yeah, that is true, actually. Home Garden Network, because I am so tired of the bashing of, Christianity or religion in general, and you just kind of get tired. Like he says, all these shows where people are just dating this or that, and it's sort of like the sitcoms are written to almost be like Keeping Up with the Kardashians rather than having something else a little more like you said, warm and humorous, and even if you're not into the faith, you can get a good laugh out of it because it's sort of like it's like watching your cousin you never knew tell a story that you know nothing about, but just fascinating to listen to.
Yeah.
What I am a little apprehensive about is I was delighted reading the article up until I saw that it was a studio audience multi-camera show. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that done well in a really long time. Most multi-cam shows these days are kind of low-hanging fruit, trying to appeal to the masses. Mm-hmm. And if this show is going to work, I don't think it can be low-hanging fruit.
Well, Big Bang Theory is, it mixes in some low stuff, but it's like so smartly written, so many high-level references. I think that it shows that you can do it. And there's a couple other shows. I mean, I'm not trying to. I agree with you most of the time, but I think that and Mom is sort of like a modern-day Roseanne. When we'll be talking about the return of Roseanne on a future episode, that's coming back. But I'm saying I think there's still hope for smart, writing in sitcoms on that level. But
yeah, I mean, I understand. I agree with your reservation. It would be a wonderful thing if they can keep it at a non-stab the Catholic kind of show for at least a season.
Right, because that would be the low-hanging fruit thing to do.
Exactly. And then if they are successful, will they keep it up? Not that can they can. Will they keep it up before somebody decides to mix it up? But at least I'm happy this person is putting the effort through to kind of make this sort of a wholesome, humorous dive into this. And it is kind of interesting just going, like you said, the Bible writes itself in terms of joke. Well, we kind of combine that together, but it does is even that alone is like a fascinating comedic, story that'll last a couple seasons. Yeah.
Well, and then I've got a couple more clips from him. He addresses, because I was surprised, okay, so what's a guy who did Two Broke Girls, which is famous for, they bragged at their 100th episode mark in articles that they came up with 1 million different ways of joking about female private parts on that show, things like that. And also Sunny in Philadelphia is a much smarter show than Two Broke Girls, but it is definitely TV mature or the equivalent of an R-rated show. And so he addresses that here. It's kind of an interesting answer.
I wouldn't I wouldn't say I'm either a clean or a dirty writer. I just try to write what's funny. But for me, my sense of humor, my personal sense of humor, was never the Two Broke Girls sense of humor, for example. That was a particularly filthy show.
Yeah.
And, I find it funny to some extent, but it gets tiresome after a while. And what you find is that the audiences become trained to then only laugh at dirty jokes. Like if you kick a show off with a dirty joke, then other kinds of jokes don't connect because now there's blood in the water and they're hungry for more sex jokes. So I will say writing a show that is clean and funny is significantly more difficult and more challenging. But then to also add in the element about it being a show about religion, tonally, this was without a doubt the most difficult show I've ever done. It was stressful at times, for sure. And I think, though, at the end of the day, it just becomes more rewarding when you're done with it. This is the only show that I've ever ran and been completely in control of the content of. So, you have a responsibility, really. If you're going to do a show about religion, it can't be a filthy show, or else
sure.
You're not playing to the people that should and would enjoy the show. But yeah, that's a great question. I loved writing. I thought Always Sunny handled really sensitive, serious topics in a really, really funny way, but always in a R-rated manner. So